I want to. So I definitely want to get uh Sardis' opinion on that article. Um, that like about the Indian parents. Uh, since you might have some deeper knowledge within that cultural context. So, what are your
Oh, she's
thoughts?
Pakistani. You didn't know?
When you
Oh,
shared
but
that
South
that
Asia,
link,
but she's South Asian, South Asian.
Oh, play, don't play, don't play, don't play.
All right. Right.
so so Asian parents are very stereotypically very demanding. I just thought the article was like the funniest thing I'd ever seen because because it's like the extreme of a demanding parent, like they're very demanding. They're willing to sacrifice a lot to help you with your success. And that's definitely something my mom did. But also she was very demanding growing up. I wouldn't have had it any other way. But that I just thought that article was one of the funniest things I'd seen because it's like, okay, this guy's parents have gone a little bit far with the suing. Like, I don't know enough information about this man and his wife, whether they have been trying and they just haven't been successful because, some people have trouble. Actually, majority of people don't get pregnant on the first try. So, yeah.
Was it
but
an arranged marriage?
Almost
As
as
well?
well. We don't know. We don't know that from an article, but we don't.
Yeah, we don't
but
know about the article.
it was implied that the parents did have an involvement in it.
Okay. So I'm just wondering if this possibly was like an arranged marriage that also had this what is it, this added into it as well at the same time.
Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah. So, but then, do you think that the ask is unreasonable, considering the demands that South Asian parents do up on their kids, right? And the amount of investment that you're aware of that they put in. Like, do you think that's reasonable to say, hey, you've disappointed me, you've not reached this milestone, and now maybe not to have a baby, but at the very least to be setting out milestones and saying that you've disappointed me, and so I'm gonna demand a refund.
I don't know if I would. I don't think that that's really necessarily like reasonable. I think maybe what would be reasonable is saying, I spent a lot of money on your education. Do you think you could start maybe helping us with the finances, right? That sounds like something that's reasonable to me. And that's what a lot of families do. They invest a lot in your education. You help them out financially, things like that. Suing somebody though for not providing grandchildren seems like a bit performative. It sounds like hilarious to me, but also it's probably not very fun for it's probably not very funny for the guy who's going through that. Yeah, I think I don't think it's very reasonable at all for them to be suing him for grandchildren. I think it's more reasonable if they sat him down and said, hey, we spent this much on you. Do you think you could start paying for things around the house here? Do you think you could start helping out with the bills here? Do you think you could start,
Well,
giving
what if
us a
somebody
monthly
rejects that?
income or something?
What if they did sit down with them and do those things, and the person was like, I don't owe you anything. You gave me a lot of stuff, and that's your fault. Because that very well could be the point, right?
It
It's
could
not
be.
necessarily.
Yeah. I think only if the relationship was like abusive. I think that maybe somebody could maybe be justified in not wanting to take care of their family. I've known people who, I guess, their parents spent a lot of money on them, but also simultaneously were very physically abusive towards them. So I think that in that case, maybe they, maybe they don't feel that way. But I think also, I think if given that that's not the case, and these parents spent a lot on you, and they've emotionally supported you, and they've been giving you everything your whole life, I think it's the honorable thing to do to help them out with finances at the very least. Help them out with giving them like a monthly stipend, you know, so that they can live and retire and not work for the rest of their lives. I think it's a very honorable thing to do that kind of stuff. And I think that crap, my brain. Yeah, but the grandchildren thing, that has to be like a conversation between people. You know, that has to be, and I don't know how many times, but I feel like if I got married and I didn't produce any grandchildren, it would stop. I don't think at any point my mom would sue me. She would have a sit down with me, and then if I didn't produce any, then she would have a sit down with me again. Then if I didn't produce any still, she would have a sit down with me and talk about going to the fertility doctor with me or something like that. You know, an intervention, if you will, you know, maybe a family intervention would take place, but in no world would I imagine my mom suing me. So, yeah.
But like, you failed. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. So, I just, it seems like, okay, a job, right? Let's take it to like a corporate setting, right? So, a job gives you training. To do something, right? To fill a position, right? They see promise in you, right? So they hire you on as a person who's an experience, and you get experience from this job, and like they see talent, right? And like, okay, we're going to send you off to a very expensive training, so you get like a huge career development. But you know, we also want something out of it, right? So if you're going to do this career development, then you'll work for us for a certain amount of time. Like that's reasonable, right? Like right? We would all agree on that. That's reasonable.
If they quit and that happens. If they quit and you spend all that money on PD, that happens all the time.
Okay, so then you can
it's in
sue them.
the agreement. Like if it's part of an agreement of some kind, I guess. Like if it's like a written agreement that you've signed, then yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure. Everyone agrees
You can't
there.
do that with your kids, though, right?
But no, we can. I feel like you could actually do that for a person who you put an investment in, right? Like GSU. Well, like you agree, like you put a certain investment in, and it doesn't pay off for a person that you've explicitly stated this, right? Whether written or verbalized, because not everyone actually writes these things down. But if it's clearly expressed verbally, that you could say, hey, you didn't fulfill your role. Yes, sir?
Hold on, say that again now. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. All right, you got too busy stuffing your face. It's okay. So, saying that whether it's written or verbally expressing to a person, in this case your child, that I'm gonna give you this additional investment beyond child raising them as a child, but this additional investment, and if you fail to reach these basic milestones, that you owe me because my investment just went down the drain. But that money isn't free. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
I actually have to hop off here, so I will say goodbye to everybody. Take care.
Have a good one.
Oh, have a good one.
Love you, kids.
All right. So but you would disagree with that. Oh well, she deafened for a second. Hopefully she gets back. I was gonna ask her. But actually, Nubs, you're here. You would disagree with that.
So I joined this conversation a bit late, so I don't understand the context or topics that have been discussed, but my understanding is we're talking about children and expectations of the parents on them. I don't know what age range we're talking about, but
18
I don't
plus.
think even if it's 18 plus, I feel like there's so many burdens that parents can put on their children, even when they're younger, that just can be played into, something that might be contractually legally legit after the fact. I I don't know about you guys. I was a middle child. I was a little rambunctious, a bit of a problem child. There was a lot of quirks in how I interacted with my parents, and I knew that the way I interacted with my parents was unique, not just between my brothers and myself, but also with other families. It's emotional relationships are so unique that trying to figure out a way that they can apply to a contractual obligation even after you're an adult, it just seems like it's always like the odds are always against the kid, you know?
No, so this is an investment afterwards. So, uh, like for instance, college, right? Or you want to start a business, right? Or for giving them a car, so they can go to work or something, right? So you invest in them, and let's say they decide to fuck off, do drugs or whatever, right? Basically drop all responsibilities. Well, you did put an investment in, right? With the expectation that you would go and like use it, like you would use this car to get that job that you just landed, right? But instead you use that car to like feed your drug habit, or maybe you literally even sold it for your drug habit. Would it be fair to say that you didn't use this as intended? This was given to you on the basis that you would use it to advance yourself, and you didn't do that?
No, absolutely, you're correct. But it's just when we start getting into the space of describing, like, maybe you should have had grandchildren by now, there's so many extra variables that it gets a little tricky. I think that's where we were coming from, but if we weren't, apologies.
You know, we were. It's just I think everyone. I don't think anyone here would disagree with the kid, because the kid is a very special situation.
Hold on, say what now? What am I not disagreeing? I'm sorry, I'm listening now. I promise. What am I not disagreeing with?
Just all of us saying that the kid, the thing about like having kids, forcing them to have a kid might be a bit too far. Correct? Does everyone agree?
Yeah, I don't think you can
can't
force people to have kids, but you can not materially invest in them if they make those decisions. If you feel like a kid is very important. Yeah, so nobody is saying that we should take somebody's penis and somebody else's vaginas and stuff it in there and say, hey, yo, have a kid, right? None of us are going to that level. We're just saying that if somebody makes a decision not to have kids, one might materially disinvest from them because of that decision, right?
Say it again.
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not saying that we should force people to have kids. We're saying that if people choose not to have kids due to whatever reasoning they come up with, outside of things like obvious, right, like infertility and those type of things, right? Like outside of that domain.
True.
We're saying that, hey, I'm not going to materially invest in you because you aren't doing something that I see as extremely valuable.
I think that already happens though, and we just call it favoritism, right? People do good things, have the grandchildren, all of a sudden they're getting special treatment. I don't know if any of you guys had a golden child in your family. I hope you didn't, but this happens frequently, and sometimes parents will dote on one child, and this can shift in later age to things like giving us grandchildren, right? And I'm sure money shifts accordingly. Really good neutral parents will probably be fair all the way through, regardless of their own investment amongst their children and grandchildren. But nobody's perfect. Favoritism exists. There's always going to be this variance, but it's not going to be ever like a contractual, like literal agreement. And if it is, buddy, that's a rough family right there. I'll tell you straight up.
I think favoritism is different, all right?
Well, sorry, maybe I'm using a broad term. Whatever favoritism describes in the sense of this behavior is being observed and I like that behavior, so I will do things to encourage this behavior to either reward it or make it occur. Favoritism might not be the right word, sorry.
Gotcha. I get your point now. Yeah, for sure. But do you think that that's a problem though, right? Do you well in the example you gave is definitely a problem. Do you think it's a problem if somebody says, hey, you don't want to have kids, and I kind of sort of set up my entire life based off the idea that you would have kids, and it seemed like it was something you were interested in, and now you're choosing not to, so I'm going to pull back from
That's a massive problem. You might force or basically you're going to manipulate someone into doing something. You might not be always successful, but the extent to which you will punish them for not doing what you do or reward others for doing it to, kind of make you want to go that way if you're not doing it. Like there's so much fucking space here. This is so nebulous.
Hey, uh, Eucharist, and then when she unmutes, we'll go to her as well. But Eucharist, what do you think about the wider question of uh, like not familiar relationships, but like a wife, right? Who fails to, like, you go into this relationship thinking we're going to have kids, and they decide they're not going to, right? Do you think you are owed anything, like for the years, for the time, for the investment you put into this person?
I don't know if I would want to put it in like financial or transactional terms, and that was like part of my difficulty that I was having with like the early conversation is the concept of like investment as we think of it, tends to be put some in, get more out down the road, directly to benefit myself rather than thinking of like long-term investment in the future or the community or whatever. Yeah, that's tough. Like specifically in the context of a relationship where you go in expecting kids and then they decide they don't want to, right? Because we're all admitting like there are extenuating circumstances. Like Stardust said, like it can be hard to get pregnant. It doesn't always work, right? So like we're admitting there's extenuating circumstances. This is like a change of mind, or like, oh, I said that then, but I didn't actually mean it. Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know how I would phrase it that you're owed anything. I'm trying to figure out how, like, obviously there's like some element of like betrayal of trust there. If there's like, if it was something that was reserved, held back, that was dishonest. If it's like a change of mind, then it's, maybe some fundamental change in what you thought the relationship was and where it was leading, that requires obviously like some working out of that relationship, however it goes. Yeah, it's so tough for me to pin down. I don't know if I get like in the context of what sparked this discussion, I couldn't put a number on it, right? I couldn't possibly imagine suing somebody and saying, she failed to provide me a child, give me $1 million. Like that it's nonsense
Yeah.
to me. It makes no sense. Yeah. But obviously like there's some miscommunication has happened, some fundamental change has happened, or there was some dishonesty along the way. And yeah, I don't know how you deal with that. I don't know how to get a general rule other than like stepping back, like I've been kind of trying to do across the board, and say, like, what is it that you think your duties are in those sorts of relationships, whether it's, entering into a romantic relationship or the relationships you have among your family. Like, if you can figure out that question, maybe the particulars can come a little bit more clear, but I don't know if we've figured out. I don't know if I know that. Maybe I should just be more controversial and say, yes, I would sue my wife for $1 million if she failed to provide me with a child.
Let me ask a quick question, because this is something this is something I thought was an important thing for me to figure out when I was a bit younger. Should a gift, whenever you give a gift, is there an expectation of return? And I think most relationships can be defined in this fashion in some regard. What do we give people, and do we really expect something in return? And when it's the father and the parents and the kids, the mother, you're giving this to your kids not because there shouldn't be an expectation of return. It should just be
No, there
simply
should be.
what.
These aren't gifts. Yeah, I reject the idea that these are just gifts.
Well, I know there's some things you can do that wouldn't be that, but the whole base raising your kid and doing the best for them to be successful, like arguably, I feel like that should be something you do without. There shouldn't be an expectation of return. You took these kids into this world, right?
No, I don't. No, I don't. No, you definitely expect something in return. It's not like, yo, hey, I raised you, go off and do whatever. Like, that's weird. That's wild. It's not
Oh,
realistic.
that's all that's all I'm saying. But basically along the lines of maybe the kid's not doing what exactly we wanted, but they're living their own happy life and they're actually happy. Like, should I be allowed to come and go, no, you should be giving me grandkids right now? Like I feel like that's where I'm connecting it to the argument.
I think it's perfectly acceptable to say that.
But that might not be their life. That might not be their pattern. What if they?
Yeah, it
what if they
might
were?
not be, but that doesn't make it wrong for you to say that. I'm not saying that I can't conceive of a world where people don't want to have kids. I'm saying that I'm okay with parents saying, "Yo, like, you're not doing something that I definitely expected you to do.
Yeah,
Therefore,
no,
I'm gonna."
yeah, no, I'm with you, and they can want that, but can they punish you for it? Like, sure, I'm sure they do to
For
some extent.
sure.
But
Just like any other action you could take, right?
well, this is the whole argument, right? Like, I joined in late, so I'm just trying to figure out. We're trying to value when a kid, how much a kid should be treated, or a child, a son, progeny should be treated when they start to go beyond the expectations of the parents at varying ages and stages of their life. That's what we're trying to evaluate here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, well, it's a sliding scale, right? There's no concrete way to evaluate this, so it's a fun
Well,
topic to discuss. But
it sounds like you have a problem with even the framing, though. You seem, I don't know. I'm trying to pin down where you are, and I'm also in the middle of a Yu-Gi-Oh match, so that's why I'm like repeating stuff. But it seems like you have a problem with the expectation, and I think that's what I'm struggling with. And maybe you don't, but it seems like you do.
No, I do. I actually think, like, if you give someone a gift, you should never be like, I
We
better
don't
get
call it
something
a
back.
gift, though. I
Sorry.
don't call like me trading a 529 with $200,000 a gift, right? Like
Okay,
that's
well, fair. Okay, so now we're objectively defining. We're defining what we're speaking about now. Absolutely. Okay. If you put down some real money in a specific thing, and you're talking to someone who's of sound mind, that's either a full adult or approaching that, yeah, terms can be defined. It's just that when we start talking about things like having children, it gets hard, because like that's something you do, but we don't even know what's the best way to raise a child. We know so little about psychology. Like, you don't want to force someone to have a life. I feel like that's that can and often is positive and great. But I think often the more strain you put on someone to do something, especially like raising a child, I think you just invite greater risk for them to do it poorly. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that's always the case, but I don't think you should force someone to do something as important as raising a child. I think that's probably the most significant thing many of us will ever do in our lives.
Yeah, but we're not saying force, right? That's why I keep on parsing this. We're saying that we're going to have an expectation that if you don't meet it, there's going to be consequences to that. But we're not saying we should force people into it.
I know, but once you start putting a weight on someone to do something, a lot of people are going to be successful and achieve the result they wanted, right? And
yeah, that's the goal of it, right? The goal of me disinvesting is the hope that you change your mind and you have a kid, right? For sure. I'm not acting like.
What if they have the kid with the person they really weren't connected with, and now they have a shit life, they hate each other, they have a kid they have to go through, they didn't establish a good financial
But you
job.
have additional you don't just say, hey, go out there in the world and have a kid with anyone, right? Like, hopefully not. We should advocate that parents don't do that if they are. But like advocating that they find somebody that they want to spend the rest of their life with and say, hey, you should have a kid with this person because I think
that's a term of condition.
Good
Absolutely.
character.
Absolutely. If the parents are saying we're not going to force them to have a kid till we really truly believe they found a good partner to raise that kid, we will only push then, buddy, that's way more acceptable than just a generic, hey man, you're nearly 30, you're not married yet, where's the kids? And I think a lot of people have to deal with that pressure, and I think it's unhealthy.
Gotcha.
I
so
don't want to.
You do agree? No, go ahead.
But I just want to add, because I've been listening. Go ahead.
No, go. You got it.
Okay, but like I don't want to frame this as like pressures. Frame this as like difference between like a pressure and an expectation of something that's like reasonable and tangible. If somebody's helping you sustain a lifestyle and they're expecting results out of a lifestyle, I can see if you fail to achieve that lifestyle, but to achieve it and then renege on the expectations, it's like I said in another conversation, it's a dividend. You're a stakeholder in a company, you're investing in the company, you're giving them money, a lot more money than they're giving you back, but you expect some type of dividend back. And then in terms of, I feel like it's weird. Grandchild is weird, but that could be their culture, you know, and that could be how they sustain their lifestyle. That could be how they, if they have a farm and they need people to have children, you know, if like you can't get any more workers, got to bring people on, have kids so we can sustain the legacy that we're trying to build. You're not doing that, but I've given you all this and you said you would. You're reneging.
No, that's
You know,
legit.
like, what's going, you know, and it's not like you've tried and failed. That's
But
totally different.
expectations are
situation.
pressure, though.
Expect-
I think I agree with
yeah,
most of
but
what
they're
you're
not
saying.
like. But
If I say
it's
go
a
to
lot more
school and make all
substantial.
A's, as no, if I say as you go to school and make all A's, that's pressure, right? Like,
Yeah, it's pressure, but it's not like a it's not a manipulation. It's a
it
ah,
is.
It
No.
is,
Wait,
but
wait,
no,
wait, wait,
man,
wait.
I don't have the word. I don't
Yo,
have the word.
yo,
but
no, let me
you
jump
know
in. I know what you
mean?
guys are
It's not
saying.
something negative. Like
Yo,
you're not being.
me and Gambit are kind of saying like this can happen, and you're saying that's not always the case. We both agree. We're just like kind of framing it separately, I think.
I think, okay, so I'm framing it as in like your hand is forced. You have no other choice. I'm saying if you fail, you still have a choice. There's choice is still present in compromise, in a bargain, in an agreement. There's still choices, especially if you fail, you can no longer give what was expected. But if you're like being manipulated to do so, you have no other choice. It's like, and then it's even problematic with kids because now it's not like, do you want to have a family, or is it this idea of a family that you're looking for? Is this idea?
No, exactly.
You were talking about newbie. Is it newbie or nub?
I both. It's supposed to be clever in both, but nub is better.
Okay, nub. All right. So like nub, I feel like you're pushing to like somebody has this idea of what I should be or what I should become, rather than what I am, and I'm not enough.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to separate. That's
providing.
literally, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So like that's when the problem is like you don't really care about me. You just care about what, you know, I can bring to the table. You care about the you care about the it's like having a tool, and you care about the utilization of the tool. You care about the functions of the tool. You don't care about the tool itself. You don't care about me. You care about what I can do. And you know, and for you, not for my sake, it's for your sake. It's this selfish, one-sided agreement. If I don't know if this appears that way, but it could be this way as more information comes to light. It could be possibly this. Parents just want to look good, you know. Having grandkids makes you look good. It's like a honor system, you know. You've honored me by having kids. I look good to my friends, you know. And then it's, what's the point?
Well, you know, ego, pride. That's usually like what instincts are you satisfying, and are they culturally acceptable? Are they ego? Are they pride? Are they image? Usually, we say fuck it. When your decisions are driven by such aspects of your personality, people look down on it more. Now, there could be good reasons to want to have grandkids because you just want to give more love, have more children, have a taste of that when you were raising your own kids. Like that's so innocent. That's great too. But even that still is like, why am I pushing my kids to do this if they don't really want it? Like, I'm not trying to say it's so bad. I'm just trying to go a little hyperbole here and just go, where does it become problematic, rather than, I'm not trying to argue about where it's good because there's so much good space. Families wouldn't work if that wasn't the case. We've all had families. We've all had this pressure. For the most part, we align with what our parents and family want. I just want to. This topic doesn't really have a divide, and I'm just trying to give it one, a little bit of a crust. So I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead, GSU, because I have more to add. I just don't want to keep going on because like this can go to a real clear back and forth if I keep going.
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
All right, then here we go. All right, you ready? Like I could see if you're at a point in your life where I'm pushing you to have kids because we can't afford, like, if you grow old, we can't afford to put you in a home. I'm gonna be dead. There's nobody gonna be taking care of you. the society we live in doesn't, find this agreeable, have children. But if I'm pushing you to have kids for any other reason other than, I guess, like, I understand what you're saying, GSU, is like, I have expectations and I'm putting pressures on you, but the reason I'm putting pressure on you is because I expect you to be successful, because I want you to have a happy, healthy life.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But and then you're saying that it's less likely if you don't do what I say or do what I ask, it's very likely you won't have this because of data and statistics and
Well,
never
it's just,
mind you.
to me, it's just likely that if you're a person that's saying, I don't want to have kids, it's likely that you're selfish beyond reason. I don't think that's conducive to a good life.
Okay, all right, that's what we're gonna talk about. All right,
Yeah,
that's
there you
our
go.
that's our
There
next
you go.
topic right there. GSU, thank you for
What
being
is it?
a reliable villain. But first,
Yes.
before I do that, unique name, you want to say something?
I don't know. I listen to everybody, and I feel like everybody's trying to bring back chattel laws. When children were, the equivalent of livestock, and it was your obligation to go on and have offspring. If you didn't have offspring, then your spouse had the right to divorce you, and I don't know. It all just feels weird. It's You can encourage your children to have offspring, but you can't make any kind of a legal agreement for that or sue them for not doing it.
I mean, I know we can't, as should we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It shouldn't.
You shouldn't. Okay, well, fair enough. If you think we shouldn't, but so it's less. Again, I'm not willing to fight on like forcing anyone to have a baby. It's basically meeting expectations, and especially expectations that involve financial decisions. I think that's fair. I need to, we need to deal with this. Okay. GSU, you're saying that the decision to not have kids makes you less moral?
It's usually rooted in extreme selfishness.
God damn it.
I mean-
All right, I guess we're doing this. So
Yes.
all right, everyone.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it can be. Sometimes it can be. And I think some people just aren't meant to be parents, and I think that's okay as well. So
How many people that
When
aren't
you
meant to be parents to actually have kids? How prevalent do you think that is in society?
a lot.
Well, what do y'all
a
mean
lot.
by don't? What? Hold on, wait. What do you mean by people that don't need to have kids? What
We're
What-
saying that
what
they're
does that
bad
mean to
parents
you?
and they shouldn't
Unfit
have kids.
parents and stuff.
Well, you
yeah.
don't know if they're bad parents if they don't have kids.
True, we don't
Unless
have an
they're,
objective system to evaluate it.
Let's
Yeah,
say like
that's
on
true.
drugs, right? I'm saying that exclude the people that are on drugs and all of the wild qualifiers that we would have to lay out for 10 years. Like exclude those people. I'm just talking about like a regular, ordinary person that is, like, what do you mean by shouldn't have kids? Like, what does that mean to y'all? Because I think that's rooted in like this selfishness that's inside of y'all that y'all don't see. So what do you mean by that?
I think if somebody doesn't want to have kids, it's probably best that they don't have them.
Absolutely.
I don't necessarily agree.
What,
Wait, you think
really?
someone who doesn't want to have kids should have kids?
At a point, I didn't think I was selfish, and I didn't want to have kids. If you'd have asked me, 7 years ago, 1 year before my daughter, do you want to have kids? I'm like, fuck no. I'm way too selfish for that shit. I want a vacation for the rest of my damn life. But then I had kids. And I'm like, yo, this shit is actually dope. So
Okay,
I don't
but
even.
yeah, what you're saying though is that you've come to appreciate what children are, and it
And I
shifted
think
your mindset.
most
But that's
people
different
will.
from what we're discussing.
No. It's the exact same. I think most people will feel exactly how I feel if they are put into a situation where they have to challenge their
What about
selfishness.
those that don't?
I think those people are few and far between, and the likelihood that
So
it would
forget
be
about them.
Thank you. Before then,
Yeah,
I'll let you finish. Mythic Politics, thank you for hitting us with 85 individuals for that raid. Awfully kind of you, Mythic.
Hey, Mythic.
Yeah, thanks for that, everyone. Hit up Mythic Politics. Mythic, thank you so much for the raid. Guys, hit that follow button. And make sure notifications are on so you know I'm going live. I do this 7 nights a week. We're having a discussion. We have had a hell of a stream tonight. First, we were talking about whether your parents can sue you for not providing them with grandchildren. Right? Turns out, yes, you can. You should absolutely do that. That makes sense. Everyone agreed on that. But right now we're talking about like whether if you decide not to have kids, are you selfish? Does that mean that you are inherently a selfish person, or that it comes from a selfish desire to not have children? Any which way, right? Yeah. So if you enjoyed that, right? If that sounds interesting to you, hit that follow button right now. Make sure notifications are on so you know I'm going live. Also, hit us up on social media, and of course, you can be part of this discussion. !for open in chat gives you instructions on how to jump in. Right. So jump into a Discord, go into the robot waiting room if you want to add into this discussion. But okay. All right. So you were saying something, Jishu?
Yeah, it's definitely selfish. Where was I though?
Crystal Clear Art in chat. She is one of our kind chatters, right? More on the conservative side, right? She says, pretty jaded opinion, but I think women who don't want to have children are fighting or out of touch with their bodies. Does anyone agree with this?
There could actually be, like, I'm really stretching for this, but
Uh-oh.
biologically there could be an argument that there's a hormonal like disposition that ties maybe in with some instincts that does have a slight lean or weight on women to have children. That might exist. I can't say yes or no, but theoretically I won't scratch it out.
Stardust, are your hormones out of whack? Do you
I want kids, so I don't think they are, but I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that question. If we're being honest here, I don't know the answer to that question. And I don't want to make an answer. I don't want to give an answer if I don't know it, you know.
Eucharist.
We're entering dangerous territory, Prime. I would never on a panel say what Crystal said in the chat. Right? It just would be imprudent. I'm
There could be.
There's something like a biological drive that exists in a lot of people, and I don't know if we want to make that normative or not. Same with the question of selfishness, right? Like, I'm unabashed. Okay, here's what I'll say. I'm unabashedly pro-natalist. I think babies are awesome. I think people who think we should stop having babies are stupid. r/child free is the most disgusting, toxic place on the internet. Okay, so I'm like, I will embrace all of that, with the caveat that, like, yeah, like some people have said, like, that doesn't necessarily mean that I want people who actively don't want to have kids. Y'all stop making babies. We'll keep making them, and maybe I'll win, you know, in the long term, odds, numbers wise. That's fine with me.
Well, you definitely will. I mean, absolutely you will.
Yeah. So anyway, the question of like selfishness, I don't know. That's tough for me. I don't know. Because, okay, let me, giving it the most charitable case I can, I think there are some people who don't want to have kids for perfectly what they feel are unselfish motivations, right? Where they think that actually having a child would be the selfish decision. We've seen a lot of op-eds and talk
those
about
are
this
anti-natalists.
recently. Yeah, the anti-natalist
No,
position is
actually,
basically like,
I
it
could
would
give
be a
an
selfish
example.
thing, right?
I could give an example. There are plenty of people who have mental illness that runs in their family who don't want to have children because they're afraid of passing that down because the likelihood of it being passed down is so high. So
yeah,
I
or
think
any like genetic condition, right? There's lots of people that I know who,
like, so this would all be bracketed under what I thought we would consider as reasonable exceptions. If you're like, yo, my kid is probably going to have this disease and have a terrible life due to the disease, I think that decision not to have a kid isn't based in selfishness, right? It's based in like care for other human beings and not wanting somebody to live like some horrible life, right? So outside of those cases, though, I'm talking about typical everyday people with not these type of issues. Choosing not to have a kid is based in selfishness to me. Right. So there's obvious qualifiers, right, that I'm going to agree with, but Yeah,
So you don't think there's any responsible positions to not have a child? It's always selfishness?
for sure. Yeah, for sure. Outside of like the things that we just obviously agree with, yeah.
So when does it? You know what? It's just hard to describe selfishness because we all have a different idea of what is the threshold of selfishness. Everything we do is inherently kind of selfish to some extent. Like sure, there's pure altruism. Yeah, okay, but how? But the exception proves the rule, right? Um, sorry, I hate to be that guy. I'm bringing it down to this point. Apologies.